Hello, and welcome back to another AP Sports episode. Today, I'm going to be going over one of the most heated discussions in my comments on my son's video. A lot of people did not like this at all, but my opinions on Donovan Mitchell versus Devin Booker and why I believe that Donovan Mitchell is a little bit more superior in talent level and production and just as a player in general to Devin Booker. Before I get into all of that, please do subscribe and like this video if you enjoy. Please leave some constructive criticism comments if you have any problems. Plus, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this topic. Here's a pretty crazy graphic. 98% of the people who watch my videos are not subscribed. Only 2% are subscribed. So it would really help me a lot if you guys could subscribe if you enjoy. I'm going to try my best to continue to release content. I know my partner in crime, Peyton, is going to be releasing a lot more regularly as soon as he gets a new computer. And with all of that said, I hope you enjoy the video, and let's get right into it. So, Donovan Mitchell, Devin Booker. This versus discussion has been brought up in multiple different occasions. And I honestly did not think it would be as much of a hot take as it was to say that Donovan Mitchell is better than Devin Booker. I really don't understand why people think Devin Booker is better, especially with what they've seen. So, to start off, Donovan Mitchell plays for the Utah Jazz. He's their shooting guard. He averages about 22.7 points per game, 4 rebounds, 4 assists. He shoots 36% from 3, 44% from the field, and all in all, pretty solid stats. Devin Booker, on the other hand, very similar numbers, 22.5 points per game, 4 rebounds per game, about 5 assists per game. He shoots 35.4% from 3, whereas Donovan Mitchell shoots 35.5%. So I was rounding up for Donovan, but they really have the exact same three-point percentage. And then field goal percentage, basically the same too. 45 for Devin, 44 for Donovan. So these two players statistically are very similar. If you were just to look at the stat sheet and see these, you would be like, okay, these guys, very similar. And they play pretty similarly as well. I mean, they both utilize their three as much as they can. They're both very, very solid shooters. Clutch when it matters. Donovan Mitchell, in my opinion, also just in general, is a better finisher than Devin Booker. It's true. That's his biggest asset. Donovan Mitchell, he's so good at getting to the basket with his size, with his length, with his athleticism. He can draw fouls incredibly well. There was this one play against the Suns where he drew a foul against Devin Booker to win them the game, 96-95. This was early in the season last year. I think this was their 4th game. And Donovan Mitchell is a better finisher. On the other hand, Devin Booker is a much better mid-range shooter and utilizes that whenever he can. He likes the pull-up jumper a lot, and he uses his jumper to get to the basket because the defender's so scared he's going to take it that he can just open so much space up. But Donovan Mitchell also has a very solid mid-range jumper. He shoots very similarly from the floor. Combined with his finishing and with his mid-range, I'd say he's a much better finisher, a little bit worse of a mid-range shooter than Devin Booker. But Donovan Mitchell can use his mid-range jumper very often. He does use it very often to score when it's needed, especially when he's got a very good defensive center like Joel Embiid, where it is a little bit harder to finish at the rim. He uses that jumper to kind of open up for teammates, especially. And all in all, he uses everything he can to win. That's the number one thing I'll have with Donovan Mitchell is he goes out onto the floor every night, and I don't really think he cares how many points he scores. He just wants to win the game. Devin Booker, on the other hand, who I'm sure has very similar ideologies as Donovan Mitchell, and they have very similar confidence levels, and they're just similar players. Devin Booker doesn't get it done, and yes, I have to bring up Donovan Mitchell has a much better team. But when we're comparing these two players, I have seen much more success with Donovan Mitchell than I have with Devin Booker. If Devin Booker was really so astronomically better than Donovan Mitchell, he would have much better stats. Those things alone lead me to believe that Donovan Mitchell is a better offensive player than Devin Booker, especially his three-point. I really don't think it's too much of a debate, although they have extremely similar percentages, basically the exact same. You watch Donovan Mitchell shoot in the clutch in the playoffs. He's incredible. He hits every shot. When he was playing the Nuggets last year, or I guess in this most recent bubble, so yeah, last year, he was lighting it up.
Knock down the three and make it a free throw game. He cannot advance the ball as Mitchell with the three.
Mitchell gets the three by the all-star Donovan Mitchell.
And turning the other way too, Kevin.
That was amazing as he hit it over Torrey Craig. That's an all-star shot by Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell works by the defense, takes it down, got the layup and puts it through. Watch this. No one to back up Jokic. He floats in for two. Mitchell has come up big. A miraculous 3 and 2 to tie.
He would go down and hit every three possible to keep his team in the game. He is their only offensive option, especially in those playoffs where Mike Conley was playing very below average, and Donovan Mitchell dragged his team. He almost beat the playoff points record game 1. He was dragging his team offensively to a Game 7 against this very talented Nuggets team who went on to win the Western Conference, or who went on to get to the Western Conference Finals. Devin Booker, who had his very well success in the bubble, I have very big problems with that. So this is going to be the biggest thing I have with Devin Booker, because this whole thing, Donovan Mitchell, Devin Booker, has really been recently because Donovan Mitchell just played amazing in the bubble. Devin Booker just played amazing in the bubble. But these aren't comparable whatsoever, in my opinion. So I'm going to go through Devin Booker's 8-0 run with the Suns and just let's talk about who he played. So their first game was against the Wizards with no Bradley Beal, and really the Wizards are not a good team, and that's clear, and the Suns should have won, and they did. Then they ended up playing the Mavericks with Luka and Kristaps fully healthy. That was an impressive win in my opinion. And so was the Clippers game. That was a very impressive win. So their first 3 games, they played incredibly well, deserved that 3-0 run, and it deserves all the praise it's been getting. Then their schedule starts to fall off. So game 4 in the bubble, they play the Pacers, the Indiana Pacers, who TJ Warren was their best player, which is a lot saying that about the Pacers, but that's for another day. TJ Warren did not have a good game. He shot like 6 for 20. It's the Pacers. They won, obviously, which is what I would expect, and I'm not going to take that away from them because the Pacers really weren't missing any pieces and were trying to win because they needed the seeding. So 4 games, 4 wins, looking good for them. Then we start to get into these absolute BS matchups. So next they play the Heat. And this is a Heat team who really has nothing to win for. Jimmy Butler was not playing in this game. Devin Booker and Tyler Hero were matched up against each other. That's an offensive duel, and Devin Booker got the best of the Heat. But when you have Tyler Hero guarding you, it's pretty easy to do that. I'm sure Donovan Mitchell would have done the exact same thing. So that game with no Jimmy Butler, who is a top 10 player in the NBA, that's a big miss for the Heat, and that was a much easier matchup for Devin Booker and the Suns. Next up is the Thunder, who went on to play the Rockets and take them to a Game 7. They're a good team, but this team was not trying at all. They really were not at all. CP3 played less minutes than Deonte Burton, who averaged 3 points per game in the season. 3. He was nowhere near, he wasn't touching the floor really at all. He was not, and it's not fair to look at this team and say, this Thunder team with Darius Bazley, who's their highest scorer, yeah, this is the Thunder that took the Rockets to Game 7. No. This Thunder team was not trying. There was no reason for them to try. Why get Chris Paul hurt? Another thing is, Shea wasn't even playing in this game. This is basically like you're playing the Nets. This is not a good team without CP3 or Shea, and Darius Bazley and Deonte Burton gets 32 minutes. No. This is a horrible game, and the fact that the Suns won is not a surprise at all, and really not impressive at all in my opinion. Then they went on to play the Sixers. The Sixers team had no Ben Simmons playing, they had no Joel playing, and Tobias Harris was sitting out. That's three of their best. That's probably their top three players. Ben Simmons, or Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, and Tobias Harris all out of this game. And neither was Al Horford. That's four of their starting five. I don't understand why anybody would look at this game and go, very impressive win for the Suns. No, it was not. This was a cakewalk. That's why they won. You can't look at this and be like, great game from Devin. Yes, he had a great game against a garbage team with a garbage matchup. They would then go on to play the Mavericks in their last game. They're clinching for the 8-0, and although they still didn't make the 8th seed, they played the Mavericks, who Luka played 13 minutes and had 18 points. 13 minutes, 18 points, and was out. No Kristaps Porzingis in this game either. So there's the two best players on the Mavericks. Without Luka and Porzingis, what is this team? What is his team? The highest scoring player other than Luka, who played 13 minutes, by the way, was Boban Marjanovic. He had 18 points. No, this was not a game. This was a cakewalk. Any team would have beat this. Any team in the bubble would have beat this Mavericks team with no Luka or Kristaps. They were not trying because they didn't have to. Why risk injuring Luka, especially Kristaps, who was a little banged up? Why risk that for a game that will not matter? This 8-0 run is nowhere near as impressive as Donovan Mitchell versus the Nuggets. It is nowhere near impressive. Then to flip the script to Donovan Mitchell, who averaged 36 points per game against a Western Conference giant in the Nuggets. He also had 5 rebounds a game, 5 assists a game. He was also averaging a steal per game. His defense was very good, which I'll get to in a little bit. He shot 51% from 3. Offensively, he was dragging his team to a Game 7. He literally scored 57 points in Game 1 and lost. What does that tell you about his supporting cast? Mike Conley didn't really show up at all. He didn't even play the first couple of games. Jordan Clarkson is probably one of the most inefficient players in the NBA, who I really like Jordan Clarkson, kind of, but one night he'll score 26, and one night he'll score 12 and go 3 for 18 on the field. So Donovan Mitchell is the only efficient scorer on this team, and he scored 57 points Game 1, killing it. Averaged 36 per game in a Game 7 duel with this Western Conference team who beat the Clippers, who went on to beat the Lakers in a game. Like, the Lakers won the finals. This Nuggets team was a great team with little to no injuries. Yes, Jamal Murray got a little banged up at the end of the series, and that helped the Jazz play a little bit better, but they still ended up winning in that Game 7. Donovan Mitchell hit an incredible amount of clutch shots. It was really a treat to watch. This was my favorite series by far. Donovan Mitchell was outclassing everybody on the Jazz, everybody on the Nuggets, except for Jamal Murray, and that's where it killed him, because Jamal Murray was lighting it up. He was definitely the best player in the bubble. There was nothing that Donovan could do to stop him until they got to Game 7, and Donovan Mitchell locked up Jamal Murray and was the highest scoring player on his team. Yes, they lost, and yes, that can be attributed to Donovan Mitchell's mistake.
They finally get it to Mitchell. 10 on the shot clock. Had it back tapped, he lost it! The Nuggets come up with a defensive play. Murray, they missed the layup, Gobert got it! Mitchell hanging at the other end, 2 seconds to go for the win! And it rims out!
Donovan Mitchell can be somewhat attributed to the Game 7 loss, where he lost that ball, he had that turnover, and that almost cost them the game, especially in a game this close. But like I said, at least Donovan Mitchell had the opportunity. He got his team to Game 7. He carried his team all the way there. There's nothing you can say to take away that fact. People are saying Devin Booker's 8-0 run is more impressive than Donovan Mitchell. No, it is not whatsoever. 8-0 against some bums in a bubble with completely different atmospheres, completely different playing environment to the regular NBA. Donovan Mitchell in the same environment, outclassing everybody on his team and the other team, and taking his team to Game 7. No way in hell you're telling me Donovan Mitchell is worse than Devin Booker. I love Devin Booker too. I have to say, I really do like Devin Booker, and with Chris Paul by his side, Devin Booker can outclass Donovan Mitchell in the future. One thing I have to add to the Devin Booker side of the argument would be that his playmaking is significantly better than Donovan Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell, who is not a horrible playmaker by any means, really doesn't stand the test to Devin Booker. Booker is just so talented because he's been able to playmake and make his teammates better even when his teammates are trash. Like, he has been on a bad team most, if not all, of his career. So the fact that he now has DeAndre Ayton and will have Chris Paul and somebody to mentor him and kind of elevate his playmaking to the next level, he's going to be very, very good. Devin Booker playmakes so well, and when he needs to, he also can take over a game with his clutchness, with his shooting ability. Everything Donovan Mitchell can do, Devin Booker is right there behind him. But what we've seen from Donovan is that he's done it in the bigger moments. And I understand that Devin Booker hasn't gotten that opportunity, but I'm not going to be able to compare a clutch moment in the regular season with a clutch moment in the playoffs. They're completely different animals. They're almost incomparable. So the two biggest things I have for Devin Booker is his playmaking is incredibly good. I've been very impressed from what I've seen. And plus, his mid-range pull-up is amazing, one of the best in the league, if not, well, I don't want to say he's the best in the league yet, but he can be for sure. And then, he is a very clutch player. We've seen it time and time again. I don't doubt that he will be able to perform in the playoffs when he gets there. Problem is, we haven't seen it yet. And the fact that he isn't astronomically better statistically, or when I visually watch them. I understand I'm not the biggest Suns fan or the biggest Jazz fan, but watching highlights and watching film analysis and reviews of these guys, it's hard to argue, in my opinion, that Devin Booker is a better player than Donovan Mitchell. He's just, in my opinion, and through the facts and research I've done, it's just not easy to say that. But as of right now, Donovan Mitchell is a better player than Devin Booker. His 3-point's better. His finishing is better. And I didn't even really talk about his defense. Donovan Mitchell is a much better defender than Devin Booker. Devin Booker is a sorry defender, whereas Donovan Mitchell, with a 7-foot wingspan, locks guys up every once in a while. I do have to say, neither of them are elite, but Donovan Mitchell is average to above average at defending, whereas Devin Booker is below average. And Donovan Mitchell is a better defender. He's a better shooter from 3. He's a better finisher. He's much more athletic. He actually has stats to his name in the playoffs that aren't empty, where he's leading his team to Game 7s against the Western Conference Giants. Another thing about Donovan Mitchell is this isn't just a recent thing that's happened in this bubble. We've seen it before in the playoffs. Donovan Mitchell actually, when he was a rookie for the Jazz, against the Thunder in the playoffs. So this is when Russell Westbrook was Mr. Triple-Double. Paul George was an MVP candidate. He averaged 29 points per game in a 6-game series against them. And he had 7 rebounds per game as well. And they ended up winning. And that was Donovan Mitchell's, that was him. He did that. Offensively, he was there. Defensively, he was there. He led his team as a rookie to the second round of the playoffs against a Houston Rockets team in which they did get a win against, which is very impressive because this is the same Rockets team that took the Warriors to 7 games. And the Warriors are far and away probably the best dynasty of all time. So, if you want to just talk about this as a current thing, yeah, sure. But we've seen flashes of Donovan Mitchell his entire career. These playoffs that I'm talking about right here are some of the most impressive basketball I've seen from a rookie. We hear a lot about Jason Tatum and how, he, in his rookie year, helped them get to the Eastern Conference Finals. Donovan Mitchell basically did the same thing in the West. I don't understand, because what Donovan Mitchell has done throughout his entire career he's been better every year. This year he played his best basketball. The year before he played even better basketball than the year before. So that's all I have to say about his past, and I'll get back to his present now. Say what you want in the comments about the percentages for Devin Booker. I don't care about the percentages from 2015 till now. Devin Booker is not as talented as Donovan Mitchell is at finishing, at defending, at shooting from three. Yes, he's a better mid-range shooter, and yes, he's a better playmaker. But that's all he has to his name when you're comparing him to Donovan Mitchell. So, sorry if I'm getting a little aggressive, but it's true. You cannot say that Donovan Mitchell is worse than Devin Booker with the points I just brought up. That bubble run, if you want to use that in your argument, go ahead. Talk about how he played no Joel Embiid, no Ben Simmons, no Tobias Harris, no Al Horford, 13 minutes of Luka, no Kristaps Porzingis. Darius Bazley led the Thunder in points scored in that game. No Shea. CP3 had less minutes than Deontay Burton. He played the Pacers, he played the Heat with no Jimmy Butler, and he played the Wizards. He had 2 hard games, and he won them. Good for him. Nothing's going to tell me Donovan Mitchell is a worse player than Devin Booker. Thank you for sticking this far if you did. Please like and subscribe if you enjoy. Sorry I had to rip into Devin Booker there. I do like the guy. But no, he's not better than Donovan Mitchell. We'll have a discussion in the comments if you got this far. But please tell me your points as to why Devin Booker is better. Thank you again so much for watching this video. If you got this far, don't forget to subscribe and like. I'm going to try my best to continue to elevate my content, bring some better points to the table, and try not to mess up like I did in that CP3 video. So thank you for watching the video, and I will catch you next time. Peace.